everyone, this is Rachel and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. If you hang out until after the video is through, there are always detailed shots of my current layout. Let's get going!
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Product Placement, my series with Kelly Oblak. So Kelly had a subscriber of hers ask that we work with large embellishments. So rather than a specific type, more of a style. I know a lot of people get really confused when they get the giant die cuts or they get the giant, what I'm working with today, which is chipboard pieces and stuff like that seem to be popular. And when I think of large embellishments, my first thought always is Maggie Holmes, because I see in her lines that she does often have those really large embellishments. And my theory, go away, you big dork. Come on, back in the box, in the box. I'm talking with my hands, so she thinks I want to pet her. My theory has always been use your supplies the way they work for you. So if you don't use large die cuts or you're not going to use it, just use what works for you. So if that means you're not going to use this frame, but you like the edge, then just use the edge. Same with a die cut. Quite often I will take larger die cuts. I don't think I have any right here, but we'll use this tag as an example. So let's say this was a tag and I'm not going to use this ever. I'm not saying I'm not going to use this. I actually really like this. But I'm saying if I looked at this and went, I'm not going to use this. But I like the way it looks when it's tucked behind my photo. So if that's how you feel comfortable using it, then use it that way. You're not wasting it if you're using it the way it's going to work for you. So another thing to think about is keeping things really simple for the rest of your layout, whether it be with patterns or layers or whatever. Is if you keep the layout simple and you use the larger elements specifically, then you're going to wind up being able to use the larger elements. And I think that's the way I'm going to go today. We'll see. I never quite know exactly what direction I'm going to head in. But I'm going to just tell you one thing before we go ahead and get started, and that is if you head down into the description box below the video, you will see a link to Kelly's layout. So make sure you've gone over and check her layout out. And also want to say, if you could flick me a thumbs up, that would be super awesome. It helps get my stuff seen. And then, you know, I love to share my love of scrapbooking, so I want to share it with people. All right, ladies or gentlemen, I don't know and I don't judge. All right, let's get going.
Alright, so in my intro, I did forget to mention I am working with a bunch of Maggie Holmes Chasing Dreams and Gather. That's what I've got for papers and other embellishments in this particular bag. I don't necessarily think I use any other embellishments besides the chipboard pieces. As I said, since I'm using larger pieces, I'm keeping things pretty simple. I'm just kind of going through what's available to me in the pattern paper, but with this idea of keeping everything else in my layout on the simple side, I decide rather than pattern paper, I'm just going to go with some white cardstock, and this is just a regular basil linen textured paper called Avalanche. I then decide I'm going to pull out a bunch of scraps in case I do want to do a couple of layers, and I do end up using some pattern paper, just not a lot. So when I pulled out this chipboard sheet, what really first caught my eye was this phrase, my story. And obviously it's meant to be for a layout saying this is my story, you know, or a story about me, but what first popped into my head was the saying, that's my story and I'm sticking to it, because this particular story I want to tell, I've got a little bit of a humorous bent to it, as often I do in my layouts. So I'm looking at the sheet and I'm just pulling out some of the larger pieces that appeal to me. So I pull out the my story and I pull out the ampersand. I pull out that floral wreath and the house. And then I'm also going to go back and pull out two of the chipboard hearts as well once I trim off the branding strip. So what I have going on here now are I do have these two 4x6 photos, but since what's on the ends are mainly just my couch, which has nothing to do with the story really, I go ahead and trim both of those down to 4x4s. And anytime, as I said, I have these large layouts, I'm sorry, I have these large elements, so I can definitely. Sorry, I got a phone call, which like never happened, so I was totally distracted. But what I was saying is, I can reduce the size of the photos. It's very clear what's in the photos and what the focal point of the photos are. And so cutting it down to a 4x4 doesn't take away from any of the size or any of that in this particular case. I'm not one who necessarily often uses smaller photos. So, but for this particular one, I felt it was totally fine. I wasn't going to lose any of the photos in this by just by trimming it down. So I went ahead and I matted the photos together, both in that dark teal polka dot and then in that multicolor abstract paintbrushy multicolor one. I don't know what it's actually called. So I decide that on that white cardstock, it's kind of disappearing. So I take this marble teal and cream paper and I really like this paper, so I went ahead and used my trimmer to kind of gut it out. And then I'm going to trim down my white paper and lay that across. And a trick I learned from Kelly actually was just to do one side, especially if you're prone to gluing down crookedly. So I glue down that one side and then I go back and get the rest. And I just had a little bit of ATG glue to kind of rub off with my thumb. So now I've got what I think is going to be my main layout design. So I'm going to have my photos over vertically on the right hand side, and then the majority of my title, which part of my title is part of my embellishing in this particular layout. So I am pulling out these Paige Evans mini thickers for the rest of my title. I keep all of mine just in one bag together because quite often I will use multiple colors at once. I'm trying to decide between the pale pink and the rose gold, and I decide I'm going to go with the pale pink. So as I said in the beginning, the thought that went through my head is that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So I'm just going through and I add the word that's, and now I'm gluing down my story, and I decide I'm going to have part of that go over on my photos. Because my photos are very teal and navy, and my animals are black and brown, I wanted to bring that pink over onto the photos just to help carry the pink through. So I have glued down the my story and I've glued down the ampersand, and now I'm continuing, wow, words are hard. I'm continuing with the rest of my title with the mini thickers, and I'm going to do something here that in my head, it's a fabulous idea. I'm going to have the word I'm on top of the house. And so you have to you read downwards, that's my story, and then suddenly I'm expecting your eyes to jump over to the left there to catch the word I'm rather than that's my story and sticking to it. So I will fix that. You do not see me fix that. And then I'm also dumb because I forgot to glue my photos down. Haha, super fun. Realize that uh, right then. All right, so you will not see this because I did not notice it until I was actually looking at the photo I took of it, but that I'm does not work on top of the house. It was a cute idea, and if I had done things over on the left-hand side, it would have worked, but nope. So what I end up doing after that is I move it just above the NG of sticking. So it reads, that's my story. And right next to that ampersand, I'm sticking to it. And I like that a whole bunch better. I just didn't have a chance to go back and take a photograph of it because honestly, I was really late with getting this done. Mea culpa, I put this off. I had a knock to the mojo and I just didn't want to scrap. I have a lot of stuff I'm supposed to be getting done right now and it is just not happening. And you know what? This is my hobby. I have to be, in a good mood to do it. It's not something I'm paid to do. So it is something that I have to enjoy it. And if I'm not going to enjoy it, then I don't want to make myself scrapbook if it's not what I want to do. So I have been putting things off. All right, as I've been nattering on about my own personal issues, I trimmed that floral wreath in half and added one to each side. Once again, pulling the pink through from the left-hand side over to the right-hand side. I then pulled out a label, also a Maggie Holmes, and I added that for my journaling. I also am going to right now add some Heidi Swap gold color shine. I do love adding a little bit of gold when I can, and since both my animals are girls, it worked out for me. That's going to finish off my layout. Thank you guys so much for joining me here. Don't forget to check out Kelly's take on using larger embellishments. Thank you, everyone. Bye.